My name's Joel Sherman, and this is the Invent Podcast. On this week's episode of the Invent Podcast, we have Joe with Joel Volume 3. I give a little bit of an update on what is going on currently in my life and why the episodes have been so hectic lately. I hope you guys enjoy. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Joe with Joel episode. This is Volume 3, I think, and episode 11 of the podcast. Another solo episode we have. One thing that I'm learning from doing these is how hard these episodes are to film. It's very difficult to sit in front of the camera and talk for however long, 15 to 30 minutes. But hopefully I'll continue to get better at them. I'm getting a little bit more comfortable with it. Especially, I know that it'll help me out with like public speaking and stuff like that. Evan and I have been struggling a lot with our scheduling, and everything's going on right now over the summer, and we have a lot of responsibilities currently that's kind of putting off the podcast. So hopefully we're going to be able to find time to get together and film a few regular episodes for you guys. Again, it's no big deal. I'm always willing to come on here and do a solo episode. Again, like I said earlier, as much practice as I can get. I know it can only help me. But I kind of wanted to talk today, give a little bit of update about what's kind of going on in my life and how I'm kind of piecing together all the things that we've talked about in previous episodes and how they're still impacting me today, and how I hope to continue to use a lot of those ideas in the future. So the first one is something I'm doing with my workout. So next week I'm actually starting a 6-month long training program for the 50-mile race that I have in November. Evan's going to actually be running that with me. I just sent him over the running schedule before I started filming this, and like I said, it's 26 week program, something like that. So yeah, that's super exciting. That's one thing that I kind of want to talk about. I know Evan and I have kind of talked a little bit about turning this podcast into more of like a running thing, and because that's something that we're both specializing in a way, and it can be like a super niche thing for us to explore. But I feel like we can't really get to that until we run. Like, I can't really say I'm an ultra marathoner or an ultra runner if I haven't done an ultra marathon yet. And yeah, sure, like I'm running 40, 70 miles a week. I'm doing what a lot of people are doing who run ultra marathons, but and I would call myself a runner, but I don't feel like I have the authority to say I'm an ultra runner yet. So hopefully in November, as we continue to do the podcast and get better at talking and doing all these different things, and then we have the experience of actually going and running, and we have a little bit more knowledge on like what to talk about and things like that, and how our runs and the actual races are changing and affecting us. I think that'll just be a super good time for us later on in the future, as far as this podcast goes, as far as our life as athletes go, and as far as just everything goes in general. I hope that all the other things that I'm kind of pursuing start falling into place around that time as well. So like I said, with our busy schedule, Evan and I are both working. He's working a full-time job, I think a little bit over 40 hours every week, and I'm working anywhere from 30 to 40 hours a week, which is kind of a lot, but I'm prioritizing. I'm still getting my runs in. I'm still working out on top of all the work, and I'm still able to get these podcasts out every single week. And one thing that I actually started doing this week was I started doing like these CrossFit workouts. I've been following a bunch of CrossFit athletes on YouTube for a little while now, and it was something that I've always wanted to get into, but it's something that I never really tried. And so I went on, I've been looking up workouts, doing a bunch of research, and I started doing a little bit of CrossFit, but like I started actually putting it into my workout regimen throughout the week, this week, and it's Wednesday right now. I've done 2 days of it, and my body is like super, super torn up and sore. It's kind of like how everything goes. I was noticing like when I started rock climbing, the first day after you did one session, you'd be really sore, and then you did it for a second day in a row and you'd be even more sore, and then by the third day, like, your forearms felt like they were going to explode. But then by the fourth and fifth day, your body kind of recognizes that, this new activity that you picked up is something that's going to become a normal thing, so it kind of adjusts for that, and it feels fine. So, like I said, when I started rock climbing, by the fifth or sixth day, my forearms and fingers and everything felt fine and back to normal, kind of, with my training. And, so in CrossFit, I'm kind of going. I know that that day will come in a few days, but after 2 days, it's really tearing me up. And those are some really, really killer workouts. And I suggest, if you're listening, to try doing like a CrossFit workout, or just go out and try to find a different way to move your body than you normally do, because it can be extremely beneficial to mix things up and do a bunch of other things like that. And kind of talking about that rock climbing thing, that's one thing that leaving school I miss the most, is being able to rock climb 5 or 6 days a week, because it's just so fun. One thing that I haven't really talked about on the podcast is how running kind of is a little bit of a different exercise type than I would like it to be. And what I mean by that is, I think it's super cool when you have something that you do that kind of all your problems go away. There's nothing else to think about. You're completely 100% in the moment, focused on the task at hand. And as you do it, other things in your life that were bothering you before, you don't really think about. And what I mean by that is, when I run, there's nothing else to do but think, right? You're in your head the whole time. You can't really, it's hard to get into a zone where you are in the present moment and you're focusing on every step, every breath. And you can get to those points, but it's not all the time, and it's very difficult to achieve those states of mind. But for a thing like rock climbing, Evan and I talk about this all the time. And the reason why we like it so much is because when you're on the wall, you're not thinking about the homework you have to do, or the work you have to do, or the fight you had with your girlfriend, or whatever the situation is. You're thinking about how your fingers feel on this hold and how you're gonna have to move to the next hold. And it's just it simplifies all of your problems, and it kind of diminishes them in a certain way that I don't really get with running. And so that's the thing that I do miss the most. And one of the reasons why I added kind of these different CrossFit workouts into my regimen is because they're so new to me, and I have to focus on them so hard that it's not easy for my mind to wander during the exercises. And they're very intense and like physically demanding in every aspect. So hopefully it'll continue to kind of serve me in that way, because I think that's a super important form of meditation. And like, if you meditate every day, like I try to meditate 10 to 20 minutes every day, or I do meditate 10 to 20 minutes every single day. And just having those extra exercises and other things on top of your meditation that serves as kind of like a meditative thing is just always, to me, has always been super beneficial for how I feel and my stress level. But yeah, we got all that going on. The other day I also I had this great creative idea for a book project that I wanted to start working on. So one of my 2019 goals was to write a first draft of a novel or a book or whatever the situation was. And I've mentioned it a few times on the podcast before. But my style of writing, I really enjoy doing creative nonfiction, which involves like going and experiencing or immersing yourself in something and then kind of writing it in a narrative form, so it reads like a fiction or a novel, right? But it's based on true events or memoir, stuff like that, books like that. And this book project idea I have is completely different. It's like I want to do a collection of different short stories and other things like that, but that all fits the same story in a way. And I'm in the very basic beginning stages of it. I've kind of outlined it a little bit. I've been doing a ton of research on fiction writing and other things like that with this guy named Joseph Campbell. He has this theory, or the hero's journey, that all good stories have. And, I've been trying to fit in these different ideas and kind of how I see the story and the arc and the characters and stuff like that develop. I've been trying to fit that into this hero's journey that I've been reading about. And, I'm kind of looking at other methods of writing because it's something I've never really studied. At school, like I said earlier, I studied nonfiction, and um, that's the nonfiction side of things is the stuff that I'm really interested in. But um, again, like this idea came upon me, and I just feel like I have like an obligation kind of to start writing it, and it's very difficult because you know the reason why I like nonfiction so much is just because I get to go and do things, and then I just write it how it happened, and there's a lot of creative elements to it, right? When you're creating it, and it's your job to describe things and kind of report back to the reader and be able to express the ideas and the things that you saw in a way for the other people to understand, right? There's that creative element to it. But just making up things and creating things on your own is very, very difficult for me. But I'm having a lot of fun with it so far. Like I said, I have it all, the story and everything mapped out very loosely. And hopefully, just by writing every single day, and continuing to work at that and that craft, that it will kind of develop itself over time. And I don't really want to rush it. I know I said I want to have a first draft done by the end of the year, but I'm kind of at the point now, and like that was one of my goals, but I'm kind of at the point now where I just want it, I don't want to rush it. I don't want it to be unfinished. I don't want to try to push it in a direction where it doesn't need to go if I don't write it naturally. And that's obviously not an excuse for me to like put it off and not write. And but what I mean by that is, I'll continue to write every single day, and regardless of if I've got ideas or inspiration or not. And hopefully, with an abundance of material and other things, I can kind of piece it together little by little. And I'll cut a lot of stuff out. I'll add a bunch of stuff, but yeah, that's where I'm at currently in that process. I'm actually going to, after the podcast and I do this, I'm going to go and write for a little bit. But other than that, I don't know if I have anything else planned to talk about. I just kind of wanted to give a little bit of an update on what's going on. Like I said earlier, there's a lot of busy stuff going on, and if lack of quality in the last few episodes, if there is a lack of quality in the last few episodes, I apologize for that. We're kind of rushing around, and we were thrown off. Especially I was thrown off with having to record these solo episodes because they are so different and difficult. And I do watch a lot of solo episodes. Like I watch a lot of comedians do their solo podcasts, but my vision and direction for the Invent podcast is a completely different route from that. So it's hard for me to mimic that style, like the comedy style of doing a podcast, because it's just not something that I want to kind of pursue. But with time, I know I'll get better at doing this, and I know that it's just a skill that I do need to develop, and not a skill that I've, I guess, flexed that often in my life leading up to this point. But hopefully I will get better, and hopefully we'll be back to regular episodes pretty soon with the Evan as the co-host, because I do really enjoy doing those. It's much more of a conversation, and it's very easy to bounce ideas back and forth off one another, and I think it's just makes for a better listen. But yeah, I just wanted to give you guys a quick update. That's all that I have planned. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'd just like to apologize again for our hectic schedules and the weird episodes that we've been having lately. I hope that next week we can get back to our regular schedule of Evan and I on as co-hosts. I hate not delivering good quality content and improved content week after week, so hopefully you'll see a greater jump in quality next week if it's another solo episode, but if not, I know we will deliver a good quality episode together. In honor of the adversity and the difficulties that we're facing, this week's end quote is by Muhammad Ali. And he said, "I hated every minute of training, but I said, don't quit. Suffer now and live the rest of your life as a champion."